Hello, everyone. It is Friday. Oh, Thursday. It is Thursday. I think I want it to be Friday. I have already moved on. But today is Thursday and it is live chats with Hope and Miracle. Hope, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I might be a little under the weather, just a little, just a
A
teeny bit,
little. I
but I'm
know.
super happy and excited to be chatting. So yes, let's go. How about you? How are you
I'm
doing?
doing good. I'm doing a lot better. I was under the weather as well, but I'm kind of like making a turn. But I think it's going around. I just want to say a quick prayer for everybody out there. Go ahead and mask up. And just a tip, and I really want to know if it's just me. I cannot find Tylenol cold and flu in the store. Have you went to the store and saw?
I haven't looked for
Mhm.
Tylenol cold and flu. We've been taking NyQuil and Dayquil. I mean, it's been working. Hey, I'm here.
That's the only thing that's been on the shelves, like NyQuil. So you know me, I'm like, what's going on? Why I can't find Tylenol?
All that medicine we need. Yeah.
What's going on? Okay, so I am super excited about our conversation that we're gonna have today. The first one, I'm gonna not try to sound so spicy, but I'm still trying to figure out in 2014, why it's
2024.
2024. Yeah, I said 2014. In 2024, why does HR still have a bad rep? I just don't understand. And I pulled up some kind of feedback, what people have been saying, but the number one thing that employees feel that HR is just for the company.
Yeah.
And just having conversations with family members, because of course we talk about HR all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's this overwhelming feeling that people feel like their HR department is just for the company and not for them. And I used to work in the corporate world, so I definitely see where that comes from. And well, actually, I've always been in HR, but I feel like the people who come and talk to us or develop a relationship, like they were still giving them nuggets or telling them what to do or just giving them advice. Like it's almost like you have to say what's in law. Like we're
Yeah.
not making up things.
No, no, no. I get it. I get it. Um, honestly, I just think it's one of those positions, HR that is one of those positions where you're like housed in this organization.
Hmm.
So yes, there is like it's twofold. It's like HR, I have to follow the policies and the procedures. I'm also having to, the job of being the morale police. So I
Mm.
also have to make sure, employees are happy. And when they come, the thing is, employees just don't come to HR and say, hey, HR, you're doing an amazing job today. Thank you so much for helping me with that blah blah blah. Like, thank you so much for helping me with, making sure my vacation is right, or making sure, my check is right, or helping me out on that situation. Like, HR generally doesn't get those type of responses from employees. So you also have to understand the position. Like, it's a whole lot of this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So sometimes I do believe HR professionals can go into the mode of, next, next, because all I'm doing is fixing things, right? I'm not,
Hmm.
it's not a appreciated position. Let's just start there, because most
Hmm.
people have a negative connotation, but it's fundamentally wrong. And here's why: it is a conflict of interest for HR technically to be in an organization.
Mm. I
That's why
love how you said that so slow, so serious. Yes.
it just is. It's a conflict of interest because HR is trying to keep their job, right? So there are things that you're gonna do, and you don't even probably realize that you're doing it. Um, And so you are friends, and you're connected to some of the employees too. And some of
Mhm.
the bias may creep in, and other employees might see that. So I always say it's a conflict of interest. And companies they don't need to get rid of HR in their organization. They
Yeah,
just need to be
no.
strictly mindful, and give HR the create a culture in HR that no matter what, when you come on, we want you to be non-biased. So HR needs to be taking those classes. We want you to
Mhm.
be inclusive. We also want you to, have conversations that are open, true, and not driven by and motivated by anything else. Um, but then outsourcing some of that. So
Mm.
maybe employee relations is no longer a part of, the actual in-house HR function. It is an outsourced company that supports your employee relations. So you can have this non-biased approach. Like when we go into organizations, we're just
Yeah.
like, oh, what happened? Okay, what's the policy? What's the procedure? Okay, boom. This is what needs to happen. Like we don't know anyone, right? We're just going, based on best practice, and we understand it's not a plug and play. It's not always going to be the same. It depends.
Mhm.
All the time. But yeah, I just think it's a conflict of interest, hard for people not to be people. And so maybe there is something to it because human behavior didn't change over the years.
And that's so true when it comes to HR and it having this bad rap. I almost feel like it's the same thing. Okay, so my husband's a police officer, and so he always says, "You don't like us until there's something wrong." And so until you got to call 911 and somebody broke into your house, then you need me. Oh, now you want me. And it's
Right.
the same thing kind of with HR. You kind of don't, I don't trust them. They're doing all of these things, but when you have a benefits problem and when your paycheck isn't right, you call us and we, like you said earlier, will fix it. But you said something very, very true. So if we know that HR has this bad rap, so what are some things, and I heard a couple of things that you said, that will fix that reputation? So I agree. I think HR needs to be in-house to a degree. Not to say like basic things, but those things that don't evolve, those crucial decisions that you're having with the CEO or the leaders with the meeting of the organization, there needs to be someone who can confidently have a conversation and not be in fear of their job. If we're talking about like the equity of the employees, or we're talking about pay, or we're talking about, hey, there's a cultural problem, I need someone that's going to come to the table that's not going to have the bias, and they know so and so just got married and is about to have a baby. So should we make this benefit change? Thinking about, they just bought a house, but also like holistically, this is going to help every employee improve the morale. And I am not tied to the organization. And I can actually say, can you think about this in a different way? Can you think
Absolutely.
about how this will affect the employees holistically, not just your team? And that's not happening in your HR department because it is that hierarchy. Like, this is your boss. So if you push back a little bit too much, you going to get,
Who are you
can
talking
we
to?
have a conversation meeting too?
Yeah, or you're going to do that so much, because I want to give credit to the HR professionals. And by the way, I love HR, and I know those of us that do HR, we absolutely love it. And we don't love it just because, we are the gatekeepers we've been referred to as, or anything like that. We really truly understand, want to be a support for the employer and the employees. And so we just have a heart for
Yeah.
fixing things. And it's very administratively driven, and we get in and we're like, oh, wait, I didn't know that. Anyway, but I think that the folks that are in the position, they really do in some cases try to get
Mhm.
initiatives pushed. They are really listening to the employees, and sometimes they do go to the higher ups and say, hey, these are some things that we're hearing. But once you start getting a no, no, not at this
Mhm.
time, you eventually stop, right? We say that there's and that's culture related, by the way, too. But
Yeah.
we say, like, if you're in a culture that you don't want to be in, there's two types of people. It's a person that's going to conform, and it's a person that's going to leave. So you see a lot of HR folks conforming because
Mm-hmm.
they really do love what they're doing. They may even love the company, but they realize they're not going to be able to enforce very much change. They're not going to be able to enforce it. So they find themselves in a situation where they're like, okay, I'm just going to, do the job to the best of my ability, and the decisions that I get to make, I'm going to make sure that I'm making the best decisions. But
Mm-hmm.
please give us a break. Please give us a break. We're trying. Really.
What's the HR ratio? Like 1 to 1,000 employees?
God, yeah. Depending on how big the organization is, and you got to understand it's very hierarchy. I didn't even say that right. But it's a
There's levels to this.
level, so it's top down. Some HR professionals can't do this. Whatever you're asking them to do, and they do have to send it up, and then you're like, oh, but then they're not in the meetings. They don't know the strategy of the organization, and so give us HR professionals some grace.
Mm-hmm.
Professionals, give yourselves some grace,
Yes.
one day at a time.
I used to tell myself and other people in HR, we are not solving cancer. We are not solving world hunger. We are HR. We gonna do the best we can for today. But even though we said all of this, I just want to give some tips for how VeauxPro professionals can help if you feel like my heart goes out to HR departments because it can be all of these things happening. There's so many angles of HR. There's benefits, there's workforce planning, there is culture, there's actual onboarding and retention and recruiting. There's so many layers of it. And so utilizing a HR company outsourcing that can kind of help you realize what to focus on all the things you can be doing, but what you should be doing, and just provide clarity. So I think that's what we do best. We're able to look at an organization. So we're so used to looking at organizations and saying, these are all the things we could be doing, but here's the root cause of it. Let's start here, and then we can fix everything else. So having transparency, having clarity of thought, and then having an action plan, I would say, is the benefits of utilizing someone like VeauxPro. Anything you want to add, Hope?
No, that was good. And just that an HR position is very much like what we tell leaders. Leaders, we say that, you have to be able to coach, you have to be able to
Mm,
motivate, and you have to be able to communicate. But sometimes it's really difficult in HR to do that, to motivate the employees, to be able to coach the employees, and to be
mm,
able to communicate effectively when you have so many irons in the fire, when you're wearing so many hats. So yeah, an outsourcing company, Vo or similar to Vo, would really help. So I'm hoping leaders and managers are looking at this, because those special projects are those things
yeah.
that you can kind of offload so that you can do all three of those things effectively, would be really, really beneficial. Not only to your organization as a whole, but to the employees. They may feel like, oh wait, there's been a shift, and I like it. Like, I mean, go, so
That was a engaging topic. That is not the full topic. That was just supposed to be a little bite size, but we got too excited about talking about that. But of
okay.
course, the real topic, the real reason why we're here is we're going to talk about culture today. My favorite, my favorite.
Where's the like, yay?
And
Sound bite.
so there's no surprise that we're talking about culture today, but today I want to address some bad cultures and what it feels like in all angles, what it feels like for the employee, also what it can feel like for HR, and then for management. And
Wow.
so the first culture that we're going to talk about today, I feel like this is sensitive. We're going to talk about blame culture today. And this culture looks like there's a lack of accountability. it's where mistakes are punished, and it leads to employees just feeling like they want to blame others to avoid, being talked down or getting in trouble. So I want to hurry up and blame Hope. Hope was late to the meeting. That's why I wasn't prepared. It's like,
Right.
Hope has nothing to do with you being prepared, but you
Right.
almost get this sense of avoiding responsibilities. You do finger pointing during failure, and there's a lack of transparency, and
Yeah.
there's just high level of mistrust among your team members.
Mm.
Ugh.
Whew. I feel like the blame culture comes from an insecurity, I believe, amongst the leaders. Um, okay, so we understand that as leaders, what we do affects our employees. So it's that the idea that people model what their leaders do. We hear about it, like and as parents, let's just put it in a different let's use a different analogy. As parents, we're like, do what I say, not necessarily what I do, but we all know that doesn't work. Like, we're actually mimicking behaviors of people that brought us up. Well, in the work environment, it's the same thing. You can put someone who in a organization, let's talk about specifically the blame culture, we can put them in that organization. They came from an organization where they were open about things that would take place. They were extremely transparent, and they understood ownership and accountability, and that begins to happen within that in that blame organization, and that person becomes the bad guy. So earlier I stated there are, two kinds of people. You either conform and you become a part of that blame culture, or you leave. You're like, whoa, this is not something that I want to be able to. I'm not going to be able to deal with this. So I think the blame culture really comes from and also a lack of knowledge.
Mm,
Okay, so when we talk about culture, we always talk about behaviors and what leaders want to see. To me, I think blame culture is a lack of knowledge in that area.
mm,
So I am telling you that I want you to be prepared and ready for this meeting, but I also haven't given you the tools. I haven't quite defined what preparedness means for real. So when you don't live up to this imaginary expectation that I have for you, which you're never going to live up to, by the way, because I don't quite know it myself as a leader. Today, what it means to me might mean something different. So you're never going to be right. So what you begin to do as the employee, or as a team member, because none of us are prepared technically for this, I'm like, oh wait, no, I needed you to write it on a sticky. You're
yeah.
wrong. And you're like, but I wrote it on a piece of paper. You're wrong. So now everybody's wrong. No one's clarifying the expectation of what it should be.
Mm-hmm,
That's, to me, fundamentally where blame culture starts. Like, I'm
mm-hmm.
going to blame you personally because I wasn't clear on what I told you to do. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
there's blame and then there's accountability.
Yeah.
Like, that's the opposite. Like, I'm not gonna blame you, I'm just gonna hold you accountable for the things that I've laid out for you to do. And blame culture lacks accountability, because accountability requires me to say, this is what I want you to do.
Mhm, and by when and that do that. That was really good.
Yeah.
And the employees, what do? They just avoid. You see the quietness in the meetings. You see a manager giving directions and what he thinks is detailed directions on that piece of paper, and the employees says nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like, no questions, got it. And
Hmm.
they're like, yeah, no, I walked away and I don't know what just happened, but I'm going to, you know, figure out a way to avoid what you want me to do or blame it on somebody else. That blame culture is so real.
And I'm
Um, the- mhm,
interested to see, like, as we go through some of these cultures, which culture have you experienced? Those of you who's listening, I actually haven't experienced personally a blame culture. Like I've
Mhm.
not been in a culture, a blame culture, but I have been in some of the others. But so we'll talk about it. But definitely, let us know below, and if you could give us a brief like description of like what happened, because we want
Yes, I would love it. We wanted that. Okay, so another bad culture is the siloed culture. In a siloed culture, departments or group within an organization don't share information or collaborate with each other. The
yeah.
behaviors look like lack of cooperation across departments, communication barriers, and insufficiency due to duplicating efforts. And you actually hear people say things like, that is not my job. Now,
Mhm.
this one I have definitely been a part of. When the departments do not talk to each other, and it could be something as simple as HR and payroll.
Yep, I've been
And
in that.
so you don't realize how you do realize how much the departments interact, but it can literally be like a system thing. Like when you put in this garnishment in the system, it triggers payroll to do XYZ, and like y'all don't even know, and it's errors upon errors. You got to go back and do some more paperwork and call that person again. It's just crazy. But what is the root cause of departmental like not communicating and not functioning? For me, I think one thing is just clarity on people's roles,
Mhm.
and not knowing where this function stops and where this function picks up. We're so focused on this first function, we don't even take back and look at the whole organization, because you are a part of a whole organization. And we like to hope likes to use this example. You are a full body. You may be the arm, and the arm is very much important, but you got to realize the arm is connected to our chest, which is still connected to our brain, and all of it needs to flow in harmony. And sometimes we have this like me, like pride, like this is what my department do, and I'm sales and I bring in business. But
Yeah.
once you bring in that business, who is actually executing on that business?
Yeah. No, yeah, like I mean, I think we just lack the interconnectivity of the organization. Like we just don't see it as a whole. And I will say when people come into an organization, we really just think about our department. Like you're gonna sit with this senior person over here because we know such and such is great, and we obviously want the best training experience for this person, and we want the best person to train them. For those who have training departments, they just go straight into that training for that specific department, and very few companies do shadowing of other departments. And I think if they did that more, there would be more appreciation for what the other departments do.
Yes.
But it's almost like we really don't have time. That's not something that we it's not something that we're even focused on. But then it creates the siloed culture, and there's backlogs and there's bottlenecks and there's all these things because people just truly don't understand. Like if I actually miss this deadline, it's going to delay this department by 2 to 3 days just because of the nature of what they have to do. And if it becomes, let's just say, a part of your performance,
Mm,
if it becomes part of bonus, if it becomes part of a different incentive, perhaps people would then take it more seriously. But
yeah.
that's really getting down into the roots of creating that intentional culture. But I have been a part of this type of culture, and I tell you, it's probably the most frustrating. Yes, blame culture is not a good one. I've not been a part of that one, but
Yeah.
I tell you firsthand that the siloed culture is a very lonely culture because you have companies within a company, sub companies within a company, and nothing is truly working as efficiently as it could if we would literally work together. And that
Mm,
sounds crazy because we're talking about one company, But the idea that you have all these departments and they're not working together, it just creates a bottleneck. And also, companies aren't reaching their goals, and they're thinking they don't have the right people. No, you don't have the right culture.
Uh,
You have
you
great.
just you just triggered something for me. I was on the phone with a big benefits company, and I had to talk to. I got transferred 4 different times. Let me tell you the question I had. You are a big box benefit company, and I just want a list of membership services that you offer. You have your health and your wealth, but I'm pretty sure you get 20% discount on membership. You already know, like, to rent a car, you probably get 10%, like those little things. I just wanted a list of that. I
Yeah.
got transferred 4 times and I still didn't get that list. I got so frustrated, I just hung up. I was
Wow.
like, I have a list. I am the benefits administrator. I
Yeah.
have 20 people on the roster. We pay X of money to you know tap into this benefit service. I just want to tell the employees, if you go to YMCA, you get 10% because you are a member. I got transferred 4 times and I still didn't get the list and I just hung up. So that is like a real example of just different departments, and they sent me to different departments every time. They sent me to marketing, they
Oh,
sent me to the group administrator department, they sent me to customer service. I was just like,
wow.
oh, nobody.
Nobody knows. They'll never know how old they are.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. So it's like, in all honesty, these are subtle things, but this is something that is reoccurring. And now the owner is looking at different providers.
Right, but see, we were talking internal. You brought up an external, your clients, and how having this type of siloed culture affects your clients. So
Mhm.
we're speaking more so from how it affects, your employees and how they interact. But then there's also that effect that your clients are having. And if you did feedback surveys and those types of things, you might already see some of it. They're like, why did I have to wait, this long just to get a question answered, and I still didn't get my question answered? It's because these departments don't know each other. They don't even know what each other does, because if they did, they would be able to say, here, go to this department. We know for sure that this department does this thing, right? But they don't know. But the client is who's actually suffering because
Yeah.
of the siloed
And
culture.
it's so sad because it's already happened internally, but once it shows up externally, then I see leaders making some changes. And now it's serious. But
Yeah.
your internal capital has been feeling this for I don't know how long. But
Yep.
since it's now showing up externally, then we have to do the work. And then I'm saddened sometimes because leaders just go external. Like, okay, how can you better, you know, sell this service more? And it's like, no, we got to talk internally more because we have this siloed culture. So good. Okay, we
Yeah.
have one more, and this one is the fear based culture. So, this culture is driven by a fear of failure. Whew. Fear of failure, criticism, and even you're scared to lose your job. You're always in this constant environment that if I take risk or make a mistake, I will lose my job. So I kind of just slip back into the back, don't do anything. Some behaviors that the employees experience is high stress levels, little to no innovation. Mm, no one's coming up with new ideas.
Mhm.
They want to stick to safe tasks. Whew. And they just want to avoid making any ruffles in the company. So you are actually living in fear because you probably gonna get a call from HR any day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would like to just kind of take it from this perspective and talking about this one, just to identify if you're in this culture. I feel like this culture is a culture where when you enter the organization,
Mm,
they are doing things and you question it and they say, this is just how we do it. You hear that a lot. Oh, we've always done it this way.
mhm,
That creates, well, obviously that stifles innovation, but it also creates the idea that we can't change. And if we do change something, we're going to get in trouble. It's not said, it's implied. So just kind of wanted us to look at it from the perspective of the behaviors that we
mhm,
see in this culture. This culture is probably also the culture that's like the minute you do come up with a different way of doing something, you are attacked. You
mm.
are like, listen, no, we don't do that. We've been doing it like this for 50,000 years. It has worked for 50,000 years. And you should just like play nice in this box. Um, there's a business case for innovation. Hello, we all
I
know
knew
this. Like,
it.
so um, this culture is probably the most detrimental culture for growth
Mm,
than the other cultures, specifically because you are doing probably okay as a business, but you could be doing great
mhm.
things because it's the opposite of innovation, an innovative culture. It's the opposite. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
opposite of the culture that we're like, tell me more. I'd love
yeah.
to learn more. Like, what have you learned? We have so much going on, AI and all these things, and y'all are still doing paper.
Still do
Y'all
it. That almost took me out.
it's like can do 30 minutes instead of 2 weeks. So we're talking productivity time. Like this one is costing you lots
And
of money.
let's call the spade a spade. If you're in a fear-based culture, you are most likely dealing with micromanagement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a fear-based culture, you have management somewhere that wants it their way. This is how you do it, and you just execute. Because that's the innovation. I need to be free to like say, oh, have we thought about it this way? Or can we try it this way? No, you have to do it this way. So you have someone that's monitoring your emails, monitoring your calls, telling you this is the process that you, not even the process, these are the steps you have to do it. And if you do it a different way, you get reprimanded because, and then that gives you the fear. And then you become silent. And then you don't say nothing in meetings. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to do whatever you say. Because at least if I do exactly what you say, I won't get in trouble because this is your process. But they still end up getting in trouble anyway. Because, of course,
Well, because
that's
you
that.
didn't do exactly the way they did it. They wanted you to do it. You
Yeah.
missed step C. And so I like to tell companies, you do not hire a clone of you.
Mm,
I don't know about you, but I just can't have another Hope. Hope,
me
me,
either.
I'm a lot. I'm a lot. So I
Mhm.
don't need another me running around here. What I do need is someone who's going to complement my weaknesses. What I do need is someone who's going to challenge me
Mhm.
to be a better leader. What I do need is someone who is actually thinking of ways to help Vo become a better organization overall. And I can't do that if I'm hiring a mini me. I can't do that if they'll say the same thing that I'll say. If we're going to say the same thing, then I don't need you. And what
Yeah.
ends up happening is that is exactly what happens. The leader says, the manager's like, I'll do it myself. When you start getting that, I don't want to say I'll do it myself. I don't want to know how to do it, to be honest. What I want is to hire people who are going to come in with their whole selves, with
Mhm.
their innovation, with their talent, with their lived experiences, and loan them to me
Yeah.
in exchange for some money. That's why I'm hiring people. And so the idea that we as leaders, especially in this fear-based culture, it's fear, but it's also insecurity on that manager.
Mm, 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 mm.
It's a pride on this
Mm,
manager who is afraid to allow their employees to shine, not understanding that the best that your employees do is a direct reflection on you, which is amazing. If you're in an organization where you're trying to get ahead, you want your team to outperform you on your best day. Like that's
Mhm.
the point of you having this team. So why would you tie your hands because you don't trust them? What it really is you don't trust you. You
Ooh.
the leader. And that is transferring to your team. And what I hate about this culture, and I use hate,
Yeah.
HATE, I hate this about the culture, is that it breaks your employees mentally in such a way. And I cannot
Mm.
stand this. It is unwarranted because you have issues as a leader, that you would then create this environment where people cannot be themselves, that they have to stifle who they are. It infuriates me, to be perfectly honest. I feel like this leader is single-handedly, even if the culture wasn't like that before, it takes 7 to 30 days to ruin a great culture. This is the type of leader that ruins great cultures, because people don't want to work for you. They don't want to work with your organization, because I can't be you. I can't be a mini you. I can only be who I am. And when you tell a person, I am not accepting who you are, it breaks them mentally, and it's unfair.
This conversation, I'm getting hot and heated as well, because it's the fear-based culture. You can see it. We already talked about the how the employees feel, and if you are a micromanager, that is the byproduct of that. And then that deepest level that you just hit was the trust. The management does not trust themselves or the employees. And I just go back to the employee. Walking, like, an employee should never walk away from a meeting and like, I don't feel valued.
Mhm.
Those words hit my core every time I hear it. When employees, like, every time I walk out of this meeting, I'm just unsure of myself. I don't feel like I'm worth anything, and like I can't do anything right. That is the anxiety, the high levels of anxiety that you are putting on these employees, because you just don't want them to live in their genius. Go.
Right? Who was not that way when you hired them?
Mm.
So we're talking about getting a call from someone who we brought on, who was a go-getter, who was very confident in who they were, and you slowly by slowly broke them down to feeling like, can I even do this? That is the opposite of what you should be as a leader. And you should question whether or not you should be a leader. If that is you.
Okay, Hope, we got to give the people tips. We got to, at this point, just call us if you saw yourself, if you saw yourself in any, and if you are a leader and you saw some of yourself or what your team is experiencing in any one of those cultures, reach out to us. You got to do the work. And let me tell you something, leaders, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And I'm thinking about a client right now, and she's always saying HR therapy, HR therapy. Like, it's a form of HR therapy for the leaders, because we are going to ask you, do you trust yourself? Do you trust why don't you entrust your employees? Why are you demonstrating these behaviors to make your staff feel like this? Because you are the leaders and we hold you to a higher standard, period. Period.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the inner work first. We can't even talk about your employee base without kind of talking to you, and you can be redeemed from this. It's not something that you can't get past.
There's
Um,
still hope.
there's no
There's
hope. If there's not hope, then there is a
a
miracle.
miracle.
Get through this, but you have to have some self-awareness. You have to take some accountability. And if you really want to be a good leader, and I'll tell you this, when I say you need to question whether or not you want to really do this as a leader. If you're a leader because you are making good money, let's start there. That's not why we are in leadership positions. There's tons of positions where you can make good money. I mean, you don't have to, influence people. You don't have to coach people, and you don't have to inspire people. So you might want to think about a different career. But if you are the person that's like, yo, I really do care about people and I really do want to help lead people, but when I'm frustrated, this is what happens. This is how this shows up for me. There's hope for you. Really, there is, because you're a person that has made, you know that there's this roadblock here, and so we will really work with you to coach you up to help you be a better leader. But the biggest tip I can give to anyone is take those behaviors. Leaders, I'm talking to the leaders, business owners, all those folks. Look at that culture. Be honest with yourself. If you are in any of these cultures and those are reflections of your business, um, take those behaviors, write all those bad behaviors down, and then write the opposite of those behaviors down. So if you have an issue with your leaders micromanaging, then the opposite of that is your leaders encouraging innovation. And then we generally go through steps on how we do that, what that looks like, how do we encourage innovation, and you go down the list, and that's just a quick tip. But of course, you can contact us, and we'd love to speak with you, because VeauxPro is in the business of creating great workplace cultures, because workplace cultures embody people. We want to help create great people that get to go back home to their families and be great parents, husbands, wives. But if I have a toxic work environment, I'm probably not going to be the best whatever it is that I'm going home to be to my family. So we're really passionate about it. As you can see, this one got a little heated.
I
Didn't
know.
mean
I didn't,
didn't
I didn't think I didn't think it would, but I think that was just a great ending to this conversation. This is Chats with Hope and Miracle, and we will see you next time. Bye.